Hey there, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to another episode of Kickback Comics. My name is Antonio.
My name is Ben, and y'all are listening to a comic book podcast.
Yeah, by two dudes who have not read a lot of comics, but are looking to get involved, read some good stories, look at some amazing art, backflip off the ropes, and take somebody out and swing bats with barbed wire on it, and do a powerbomb.
Yeah, we're getting into wrestling this week.
Absolutely.
We this week at Kickback Comics, we read Do A Powerbomb by Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer.
Yes, indeed.
We're doing a book club, but this is our new hobby. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yeah, this was a doozy in the best way.
Let's lock in. What do you think, Antonio?
I thought this was, honestly, there were a lot more like turns and twists than I originally expected in this epic of a tale. But I enjoyed it. I honestly really enjoyed it.
This might be a crazy thing to say up front, but I think Daniel Warren Johnson's art is potentially just like my favorite comic book art stylistically that
awesome.
I've even engaged with. Like, I just like his style so much, and the synergy that he has with the color artist Mike Spicer is just unreal. Like, yeah. I've read a few books that are the two of them. Mm-hmm. This is the first one we're going to cover on the podcast. I'm super excited to talk about it, but yeah. I just find this art style so compelling. We're going to get into it, but it has almost like a graffiti pop art kind of quality
it was also
to
great
it.
For I feel like it fit the wrestling vibe. I think,
oh my
too,
gosh,
right?
It really did. And this is a tale about professional wrestling. I mean,
yes.
It's kind of like a weird intergalactic
professional wrestling where everything is real
and magical and heightened and over the top.
Yes,
in really entertaining and compelling ways. This story also, I think, is pretty narratively simple. Obviously, we're going to get into the plot and what happens, but compared to some of the other stuff we've covered on the pod so far, the actual story, pretty straightforward.
Yep.
It's really about the emotional impact.
Right. I think that's definitely true. I think it's very much about, and it's interesting because it really is like, obviously there is a little bit of dialogue that's about the emotional stuff and whatever else, but I think it's like, I think a little bit of like a love letter. And I think based on kind of the beginning portion of this book, this little kind of note from Daniel Warren Johnson, that it is a love letter to wrestling and to just the storylines that exist within that, and then also the ability to tell a storyline, I feel like, through the wrestling rather than mainly focusing on the dialogue, for example.
Oh, for sure. The action in this comic is insane.
Crazy.
And in the way, we've talked about before, I think one example that comes to mind is like the way that Ultimate Spider-Man conveyed action.
Right.
It was very sort of little snapshots of cool moments. This goes about it in a really different way, where it's really trying to highlight and show the whole choreography of the fight for us, like sort of movement by movement. It's just really dynamically, telling the story of how these characters are actually throwing down.
Yeah, I think
it's not just throwing a punch and a kaplow. It's showing us like two setup motions that have all this momentum and weight, and then when they connect, it is it's difficult to describe.
There's a great show of momentum, and what's even funny is like, it's funny that you say it about the boom and kapow, but I'm looking back at this, and it's funny that I didn't write this down, but there are just so many great, like the lettering for all of that stuff, and just the amount of like background, I want to say
right.
like background noises, but all these different sounds that are going on, and just like you're getting words for like jump and different things like that. It feels like there's a lot of, there's a lot of energy, a lot of energy that goes throughout this whole thing.
So much energy in the book in general. I think that's a really good word. It's a super energetic book. It has so much, kinetic motion in the story.
That was the word I was going to use that word too. Yeah,
kinetic.
Too,
yeah. It says here in the credits that letters are by Russ Wooten.
Yes.
It's created, written, and illustrated by Daniel Warren Johnson. Colors by Mike Spicer, and letters by Russ Wooten.
Yeah, that's such that is such a fascinating to be like, to have that like be your job as like being a letterer, right? And
to
like
be the best, be top dog at it.
Yeah, I know. That's so. I mean, that's like just like such a fascinating thing about like comics, and just also showing like how much they value like the expertise of somebody who really knows about like that placement and how that conveys feeling and whichever else behind all these all these crazy wrestling moves and whatever else in this story.
Pretty incredible stuff. So our trade paperbacks here have issues 1 through 7.
Yes,
which is the whole story. That's another cool thing about this one
story.
Is it's another independent Image published comic, which we've talked about Image before. Image is a really cool company in that it lets its comic book writers and creators maintain ownership and control of their own intellectual property.
That's a beautiful thing,
which is important. Something that we really respect and want to call out across many entertainment, across all industries. The ability for actual creators to be involved with the things they create, as much as possible, is
absolutely,
it's
very
huge.
important thing. Shout out Prince.
This book, so our trade paperbacks, what I was about to get into is our trade paperbacks have this foreword talking about the summer of 2018 when Daniel Warren Johnson sort of began writing it. He's talking about his daughter is born refusing to sleep, and so basically he ended up watching a lot of television in that era.
Yeah, and he was up late at night trading shifts with his wife.
Exactly. And got into wrestling for the first time, pro wrestling, and something that he says he definitely wasn't into in the past, but then got this really profound appreciation for. And so that sort of inspired him to do this whole story, really, his take on pro wrestling, a pro wrestling story.
And specifically, wasn't it specifically Japanese pro wrestling, or was it?
Yeah, let's see here.
I thought, or at least that's what it ends up being. Yeah. He talked about New Japan pro wrestling,
which I've actually seen clips of on Reddit before. I'm realizing, and I think it's an especially acrobatic type of wrestling. It's a lot of focus on leaping and
which there is a lot of.
There's a lot of that going on in the book.
Yeah.
It says, P.S. A special thanks to my daughter Fiona Johnson for helping me get inspired with something new. You're the best. I love you. So sweet.
I know, that was sweet.
So themes of family, the importance of family.
Yes.
Right off rip. In the foreword of this book. All right, so should we just jump in? Let's go.
Let's jump in.
Let's go issue by issue and break it down.
Yeah. So in this first issue, this is really kind of what's interesting actually about this is that they don't really have like issue, at least as far as they are in the trade paperback. They're not done up as individual. Like,
we could call them chapters.
Yeah, we'll call them kind of generally chapters, and I'm going to kind of give my own names because I didn't see any names in there, but they probably have them. But this first chapter is really about Ua Steel Rose. And so Ua Steel Rose is introduced as this kind of like legendary wrestler, 9-time champion of this Japanese wrestling ring. And during a match, she is basically mistakenly injured in the ring by...
Pretty dramatically.
Yeah, pretty dramatically by her opponent. And kind of... she ends up passing away from her injuries. And we kind of get... the story basically kind of moves on from her to her daughter, who also actually saw this happen. And her daughter's name is Lona, and she's trying to, get into the wrestling thing herself. Her mom was obviously very, very deeply in it. Her dad supported her mom a whole lot. But, at this point, she isn't really good. No one is willing to train her. And we basically end up learning out that her father made her uncle promise to never coach her because he's afraid that something might happen to her like it happened to her mom. And kind of towards the end of this chapter, we get the real kind of crux of what ends up becoming the deeper portion of this, which is this kind of creepy dude who we kind of see like little like flashes of throughout the whole like first chapter. But
we see him watching. So the very first panel is he's watching TV.
Yes,
it's and he's tuning into the match, and you can see the skulls and candles and whatever.
Right, and you're like, what is going on?
Yeah, exactly. Who's watching this? And then that sort of brings us into the story. So it starts introducing him. This is actually something you're going to talk about later. Is the link between the narrator and the author, Daniel Warren Johnson, and this sort of villain of ours. Villain in a way.
Right.
Villainous figure.
It's kind of funny because like. He conceptually in the universe that exists is definitely a villain, but within the story, he's not. He's like kind of just like a regular.
He's like an announcer.
Yeah, he's an announcer.
He's the guy bringing the. And we'll get to what he's doing.
Yeah, facts. But so basically, this chapter ends with Lona basically meeting this guy whose name is Willard Necroton, I believe it is, and he basically zaps her away to this like. To his realm, basically, to his castle, and reveals that he's a necromancer, and he's running this tournament where the winner, basically the prize, is that you get to bring somebody back to life, which is pretty insane.
Huge prize.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty big prize. But, it's interesting. This whole, I'm thinking about all of the different like plot twists and different things like that I experienced to this. I remember reading this where I was like, because you and I had talked a little bit about this, and you'd shown me some of the art, but like I didn't know what to expect or whatever else. Seeing her mom die in like the first couple pages, I was like, holy shit!
It's huge. It's a huge twist. You don't know where the story's going, but
they like build her up so much so quickly. Like she's this amazing woman who's figure. Like crazy, like again 9-time champion wrestler, whatever else. And then and it's the fact that it's an accident, right? It's like the other wrestler, you see him like slip, and she basically like breaks her neck. Yeah.
Just from the very beginning, first couple pages, the art is just incredible.
Off the chain.
It's so vibrant. The colors are popping so hard. There's so much energy. As you turn the pages too, you can see the story, the sort of the tones are change in the first page. We've got these bright pastels establishing the different outfits. We've got Yua Steel Rose versus Cobra Sun. Cobra Sun is in these like
Cobra Sun, who I didn't
bright
even
turquoises.
Name,
yeah, he's the heel. So obviously Yua,
the villain wrestler,
right? Where the villain wrestlers, the heels, it's a face and a heel. There's always like a obviously here on Earth.
I didn't know the other term, the face term.
Yeah, so like John Cena is a face, and then the heel is going to be whoever is the these villainous bad guy characters
like
that you love
Undertaker or something like
that.
that.
You love to root against them. As you turn the pages, the one where it introduces Yua's daughter. It's this beautiful sort of purple lighting gets introduced. We see this loving relationship between husband and wife as her husband is wishing her luck before the match. And we see the match. We see the uncle of our protagonist, the brother of
Uncle Blood.
Yeah, Uncle Blood. He's so emotional, he's crying. The daughter's like, "Uncle Blood, are you okay?" And he's just, "Your mother, she's just the best there is."
The best there
he's
is.
Like emotionally moved by her performance. Cobra Sun, comes in. They have this amazing acrobatic performance. They're leaping through the air,
throwing each other, all this different kind of stuff like that.
Engaging the crowd in such a interesting and passionate way.
That's kind of her thing. I feel like we learn later. We'll talk some more about that when we get to some other story parts.
And she's saying, wrestling was my life. Getting this belt was my life. I wanted the glory and the fame. Then I became a mother, and now I don't fight for a belt. I fight for family.
I fight for my family.
Yeah. And, and she's saying her husband and her daughter are family, but also every single one of you, you're my family too. Yeah. Getting the crowd so emotionally involved and tied into the action. So, the writers are doing a good job of that as well. All these action beats are visually stunning and impressive and cool to look at, but also, we feel all the emotional weight behind
the kind of heartbreak that happens very, very early on with Lona like running up onto the mat when Yua gets hurt and all that kind of stuff like that, and then we see them in the emergency room, and then we get this little flashback, which maybe were you going to talk about that?
Yeah, the flashback. I mean, the panels of it. It's basically mother and daughter lying in bed, and you can see how cool her room
wrestling is everything to them.
It's all posters of Yua Steel Rose, the mom. And it's this really cool, almost fisheye view. Yeah. You know what I mean? It is
like, very fisheye. I didn't even think about the kind of like distortion on the
and it's got those classic glow in the dark stars are all over the ceiling, and it's just such
cool.
I'm just obsessed with this art. I find it ridiculous. If you guys are listening to this pod, and I know a good amount of you guys just listen
and
to
we
us.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, which is awesome. But it's also we can't encourage you guys enough to pick up these books and read them and look at the art. Obviously, jump over to the Instagram at Kickback Comics Pod. I try to post some good key panels every time. So at least go check those out. But I mean, this art, it's worth picking up this book just to have it as like a coffee table book and flipping through, looking at the art. It's just so incredible.
It really is.
Should we?
I was going to talk about this flashback just a little bit first because I feel like it does set up a lot of this kind of emotional weight to this. So we see Yua and Lona in Lona's room, and she's basically asking her mom to stay with her for a couple more minutes, and it really sets up how kind of like loving their relationship is, right? And so basically we get this dialogue where Lona's asking Yua, where do we go after our life? And she says, "You mean dying?" And it's, I guess so. Well, I don't really know. Somewhere far away, somewhere light or warm, maybe. It's all a big mystery, but don't you worry, right? And that just ends that little flashback right there. She gives her a kiss, and we assume that she leaves, and then we get the kind of full official news in the present time that she's passed away. And we get this moment between Lona and her dad hugging her uncle in the background, crying. And then we jump back to seeing Lona actually herself 10 years later is now wrestling, which is pretty crazy.
We cut directly from this really dramatic emergency room shot. Uncle Blood is sitting in a chair crying. The daughter is crying in her father's arms as her mom's passed away, and then you jump immediately to her getting punched in the face.
Yeah, just absolutely just getting rolled in this fight, which is just crazy. And we end up, it seems like, I don't know if she's necessarily supposed to be like the healer or whatever else, or that she's like the good one who's supposed to be losing or whatever else in this thing. But, she gets paid. I guess it's Uncle Blood who's, having her come back and wrestle. And she's trying to take on some more wrestlers. And he's like, I can't do it.
We've got, we're establishing some important parts of the story here. Lona is trying really hard to become, follow in her mother's footsteps. And there's all these obstacles. So many people don't want to train her. So many people don't want to fight her.
And she doesn't know why nobody wants to train her either. And we end up learning that her dad made her, because originally it was like, obviously nobody's going to train her because she's U.S. Steel Rose's daughter. But then we learned up that her uncle won't even train her because her dad basically made him promise that he wouldn't kind of put her in that position.
Right. We see this really dramatic sort of confrontation between Lona and her father, basically explaining that she blames him for, in some ways blames him for I'm trying not to spoil.
It's kind of like the separation that because basically after her mom passed away, they just didn't speak as much. I mean, that's kind of like something that kind of happens, but he was obviously very depressed.
They drifted
and
apart.
Their relationship suffered in particular.
Their relationship suffered, and not only that, her career is suffering because of her father. She's basically saying, this is my choice. I'm going all the way. I'm going to show everybody that I can do this. I'm a Steel Rose just like Mom was. I'm going to be just like her. And her dad is saying, if you keep that up, you're going to end up just like her too.
Right.
And
which is crazy. That is a crazy thing to say.
Right. But he's protective. He already lost her mom. He doesn't want to lose her as well. And obviously, Lana interprets this as him getting in the way of her dreams and ambitions and passion, and he just sees it as, he doesn't want to lose his daughter. Yeah. But basically, at this moment, this mysterious, punk, interesting, he's got this character appears. He's got like Kanye West sunglasses on, kind of, right?
Yeah, with like white spikes for hair, whatever else.
Yeah, and he sort of appears, strides up to her, grabs her by the wrist, and teleports her to this crazy nether
crazy
realm.
Castle. Yeah,
and we see this,
It's interesting because he's also supposed to be like imprisoned here.
Right. He's saying, my name is Willard Necroton. Welcome to the Barren Bastion, my castle and home. And we see this crazy
like wrestling ring. Yeah,
exactly. It's up. These stairs lead up to it, in the middle of this huge coliseum, and there's like lava and like this crazy mountain. And so it's a wild, wild way to wrap up chapter 1. Basically, this guy has brought her to his nether realm. He says he's a necromancer and he's running a tournament. He shows this crazy belt is the prize, and he says, I'd like to talk to you about bringing your mom back to life.
Right, which is whoa.
Right, whoa, and that wraps up.
Yeah, chapter 1.
Sort of setting the scene.
Yeah. Crazy.
So should we jump into chapter 2?
Chapter 2. So this is when kind of we start seeing the formation of this tournament. So Willard Necroton, this necromancer guy, he kind of gives us his whole backstory, which is this, maybe we'll talk about this later on, but basically he started a war, lost the war, was exiled to this island where this tournament is taking place.
Intergalactic magic war, to be clear.
Right. It's like millions of, it's absolutely insane. Which, again, he's supposed to be like this, he's like a super villain, but not so much in this context. But so he, proves it to a certain extent to Lona by showing her an image of her mother, proving that, he can do at least some kind of resurrection. What it's also revealed is that he doesn't understand that wrestling on Earth is scripted. He, I guess, has been watching stuff and he just did not understand at all that it's scripted. But so...
because in all these other realities that we see all these wrestlers from other realms,
right?
And on all of their worlds,
they fight for real.
Pro wrestling is real. All the performance is the danger is there, and the violence is not choreographed. The outcome is not predetermined.
Yeah, and you actually got to fight it out in extremely brutal ways. And speaking of brutal stuff, we actually also end up seeing Cobra Sun the other character, the other wrestler that was in Yua's match, basically participating still in wrestling, and is definitely kind of not only just the heel now, but I think like in a lower maybe wrestling class at the very least. But so we see that he is also still feeling terrible about the situation that happened. He is fighting against this wrestler and he hesitates and ends up losing he's probably supposed to lose anyway, but he loses this fight because he sees Yua in this other wrestler and doesn't want to hurt that wrestler. We end up seeing that the other thing that actually we learned that maybe I didn't even mention is that the Necroton tournament, he actually ends up telling Lona that it's basically a doubles tournament. It's a tag team duo tournament. And she has to find somebody else to wrestle with. And he kind of points her in the direction of Cobra-san.
Because there's somebody else who wants her mom to come back to life as much as she does. And it's the guy who accidentally killed her.
Killed her, yeah, which is just absolutely insane. And so we end up, they end up deciding that they're going to team up together. Cobra-san says that Necroton had actually come to visit him as well. And they decide that they're going to do it. And I think, is this the end of this chapter?
Right, we get a really dramatic reveal.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure that it's at the end of this chapter. So
it is
at the end of this chapter. So what we end up learning is that Cobra-san, right, Crazy, is her dad, right?
And she has no idea.
She has no idea.
It's revealed to us, the reader.
Yes,
it is not revealed to Lona.
Yeah.
How are we saying her name? Lana? I feel like I'm switching back and forth. It's Lona.
Lona, yeah. I really don't know. I was saying, in my brain, I was just saying Lona like the whole time.
We can keep saying Lona.
Because
I feel like we should try to establish a little bit of consistency.
Maybe, because I'm seeing that like, it's interesting that Lona... because it's Spanish, right? I think that's because he's a Mexican-Canadian wrestler,
right? And they're all in Japan.
And they're all in Japan.
Wrestling. Right. There's a lot of internationality going on in this story.
I think it's Lona. I think I could be
go
wrong.
With Lona. If
it's Lana and I mess this up for everybody, you can all comment and like and subscribe and tell me that I'm wrong.
Exactly. We can set up a wrestling match.
Yeah.
Maybe you should fight some listeners.
I'll fight some listeners. And we'll decide who the heel is and whatever else when we get there. I'm not taking that off rip. But anyway. So crazy reveal.
Let's jump into this chapter.
I was pretty mind blown with that. I just wasn't thinking about it. They do a good job at like making it seem that it's not that way with the cuts earlier when Lona's actually talking to her dad on the phone, because it's like she just gets off the phone with him and then we jump in panels. This is actually in chapter 1, but then we jump in panels immediately to him like being in the ring, right? And so you just don't think it's the same person. But this was crazy. What would you participate in this?
In the fight to save? I mean, if I was obsessed with pro wrestling and wanted to be a pro wrestler myself, and then had the opportunity to pro wrestle to bring your mom back to life, I mean, hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Right? Who wouldn't?
Right.
It's sort of like her dream of being able to. She wants to
do 2 for 1.
Right. It's like there's sort of no downside for her.
Yeah.
The only downside is that she needs to team up with
the
this guy who killed her mom. Who she obviously hates the character of Cobra-san.
Yeah.
We learned some key. Let's see, just flipping through the pages. Some key information plot wise is the backstory of this villainous announcer.
Yes.
Obviously Antonio talked a little bit about it in the summary, but he's this intergalactic villain. He did wars against all these other nether realms. They defeated him to some extent, trapped him on this island, and basically he got obsessed with professional wrestling. There's this really funny panel where it shows his creepy face. Just you can see the passion. You can see the passion in his eyes.
Yeah.
It's like when I discovered TV, I was amazed. Lutes and harps and outdoor theater are fine on my world, but television, it's night and day. I took in every single show. I loved it all, but what captured me the most was pro wrestling. The action, the drama, the intensity, and that's where I saw your mother's last match with Cobra-san. And I saw you in the stands running to your mother, and it just got me thinking, the best part of wrestling is not knowing who's going to win. The stakes are so high, and what would be the best way to raise those stakes even higher than winning or losing a championship belt? By letting the winner of the battle bring one person of their choice back to life.
Right, showing her mom in like this kind of apparition.
It's kind of taunting her.
Yes.
But yeah, so he's trying to get her to agree to come be part of this tournament. He says he can think of one person that would be interested in. That's where we cut to this Cobra-san fight. What do you think of this fight?
It's crazy, bro. I feel like that was something that I did not see like I saw some like stuff with like wrestling as like a kid, and actually that's something we should talk about maybe in a bit. It's just like, do you ever have any, or maybe we'll talk about it now. Did you ever have any interactions with wrestling much as like a kid?
I never got into wrestling.
I mean, that was just not kind of what was like on around.
I knew some kids obviously that like loved John Cena and whatever.
Right.
You all know those kids in elementary school are like running around with their hand waving in front of their face. And punching you in the nuts.
And I feel like, I mean, we all at a certain point knew who John Cena was for sure.
Yeah, John Cena was definitely broke through. I was always aware of it. I just like at the toy store, I've always been someone who's drawn to more fantastical stuff. I was always into like, you know, at that age, I'd rather get a toy that's like dragons or Star Wars or something. I didn't really want like a ripped dude in spandex toy. Really, that just didn't appeal to me in the same way like a, you know. Dragon would or sword guy or something like that, you know. I thought Lord of the Rings was cool. If my escapism, I wanted to be more escapey than like real dudes fighting, you know. That's when I was a kid, at least.
I have not. I've not participated and watched too much like wrestling or whatever else. I think it's, you know, it's interesting. I actually talked to somebody at something that an event that you had a while ago. About wrestling who had actually just gotten into it as they had gotten older, which is super interesting. But, you know, this whole idea of all these storylines and whatever else, I do think would be super interesting to do a deeper dive into.
My biggest wrestling exposure, actually, I watched a documentary on Netflix about this wrestling league that sort of is one of the feeder leagues for WWE and all that stuff. Yeah. And it's sort of come on rough times. It's not making as much money as it used to. It's sort of, and it follows the guy who's in charge of this league, and he used to be a huge wrestler himself. Those storylines, you know, it was a really compelling show and made me gain a lot of respect for people who are so passionate about it. Yeah. So I definitely, maybe I'll link that somewhere in the show notes or something, but I'd recommend people checking out that documentary if you want. It's like a docuseries. But other than that, this is my first pro wrestling thing I've sort of been hyped up on.
It's funny that this is luchador, because I feel like also like randomly, I feel like I saw like more luchador stuff as like a kid than you would like expect. Like there was wasn't there like a show on like Nickelodeon called like El Tigre something, like there was like
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, right. People will know what I'm talking about, but anyway, luchadors. But so this fight actually in this here, it's interesting. I mean, this is such like a violent fight too that's in this thing. Like they're doing like barbed wire and like whatever else.
I think that's the big takeaway for us readers watching this. It's sort of like talking about all these different violent props being used that might be used in pro wrestling that like make you really bloody and seem really scary.
You got stabbed with a fork.
Right. They're stabbing each other with forks. They're breaking light tubes across each other. They're wrestling on a mat that's covered in glass. They're smacking each other with chairs covered in barbed wire. Obviously, this, you know, the outcomes of these matches have been made in advance, but the blood and the pain is obviously
it's
super real.
Crazy,
and we see that this is, you know, we can I mean, it's pretty clear to us that Cobra Sun is doing these kind of fights because he's trying to put himself through pain.
Right. Yeah, that's a very interesting.
I think it's sort of
like I deserve it.
Right. He deserves the pain for what he did.
Yeah, because the guy who hands him money afterwards is like, you know, you used to be like this and whatever else, you know, thought you're better than this.
You're better than this. He's like, believe me, I'm not better than this. Yeah.
Crazy.
So it's really sort of tragic to see his downfall of sorts, or what at least he feels like he needs to be putting himself through.
Yeah. Also the way that Lona talks to him without knowing that that's her dad. And she's just like, you know, I don't even want to hear you talk about her. You killed her in that ring, and seeing you tonight, you wrestle like you know it. Right. That's crazy, bro.
Right. Yeah, it's really intense. Let's try to find some of that dialogue. He's basically saying, "Look, I've that Necro guy talked to you too. He already knows about the tournament, and he's basically saying, yeah, it's not going to happen. Look at you, you're too green. If I tag with you, there's a guarantee we'll lose, or worse, you'll get hurt." And he, he says, "Lona, your mother was one of the best I've ever," and she says, "Stop. I don't even want to hear you talk about her. You killed her in that ring, and seeing you tonight, you wrestle like you know it. But if there's a chance of bringing her back, of me being able to be with my mom again, and you being free from all this, then I'm going to do it with or without you. Nobody's going to fight harder for the chance to see my mom again than me. And maybe if you feel as guilty as you look, we might make a good team." So he agrees. He says,
Don't
tomorrow,
forget your boots.
Yeah, don't forget your boots. Then we see, she calls her dad right after, which crazy. This is, as we later find out, it's the same. And he basically says, look, Dad, I'm going to be gone for a few days. Don't try and stop me. Don't worry about me. I'll be back. And then we, the reader, get the reveal of him, her dad.
Cobra's son being her dad.
Looking down at his mask.
Crazy, yeah, with the luchador mask off. Can't see none of that. That's something, I haven't watched a lot of wrestling, but I do know you better not take that dang mask off.
Right.
Crazy.
But yeah, the drama. So I mean, we can get into it now, but the very beginning of the next page is sort of a conversation that's revealing this. But yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Like, it must be really difficult if you guys are a pro wrestling team, you're a husband and wife, one of you is playing the villain. Yeah. I do get that that's something you might want to hide from your kid, because it's difficult to explain. Like, right. Dad's gonna go yell a bunch of mean stuff about your mom, and then we're gonna make it look like we're beating the shit out of each other. Like, that's got to be a tough thing for them to wrap their head around. Yeah. So it probably was easier for them to just.
I think the idea was that they were like, I think they end up saying later that they were gonna tell her, like, literally, like, within like a certain amount of time before her mom got killed. Right. And then it's like,
then it's even worse.
Yeah, now I got to tell you, hey, that guy that killed your mom, that was me.
Your dad.
Sorry, I apologize.
It's a terrible. I mean, it just makes a terrible scenario even worse.
It's awful. It's an awful situation. But so that's the end of chapter 2. There, should we dive into chapter 3?
Yeah, let's just keep going.
Keep it rolling. So chapter 3. Kind of starts with, so Jacob is her dad's name. We're probably going to just call him Cobra's son the whole time, because for some reason I remember that better than Jacob. But he's talking with Lona's uncle, Uncle Blood, and basically they kind of go through a little bit of what we just talked about, where, why Jacob and Yua ended up basically keeping Cobra's son's identity from Lona. And then we get kind of the beginning of this, basically meeting all the other kind of types of people that are going to be at this interdimensional wrestling place. And we get this really, to show you kind of just how intense it's going to be. We are in this interdimensional wrestler bar where there's this like puppy that's running around, and one of the basically other wrestlers starts getting annoyed because I think it pees on him, and he basically is going to attack the puppy. Like, we're like,
and now we're entering into this over the top wrestler world, and they're calling out their attacks. So they're like, puppy punch.
Yeah, and it's like ridiculous. And it's obviously showing that these are like bad guys, because it's like the cutest like little puppy that's just like smiling, and tongue is wagging out and whatever else. And but so basically they're attacking this puppy. Lana intervenes. Did I change? I did just change it. Lona. I'm gonna go Lona.
Lona intervenes. Coming back.
She intervenes, and this other team actually ends up jumping in to kind of join this. They're this team called Orangabang. It's 2 orangutans, which is crazy. They also speak English. I don't know how that works, but
they're from the monkey realm.
They're from the monkey realm. They basically step in. They end up learning also. Really kind of important thing here is that Lona and Cobra-san end up learning from these monkey guys. They're like, I can't remember what they say here, but it's basically something about how. Do you have it up or?
Yeah, they're basically saying. And you are Sun and Steel. Yes, we believe our opponents should always be in their best condition for combat. We wish for a completely fair fight. So is it true what FISO said?
Which is this other group? Yeah.
So basically, he says one of the orangutans says, "So is it true what FISO said?" And she says, "Is what true? That your wrestling on Earth is all for show? Doesn't pro wrestling work the same everywhere?"
And then they kind of
smile, and he's like, "Of course, we knew they must be lying. We wanted to make sure that many years." Oh, anyways, whatever. So, and he says, "Oh, of course, I knew they must be lying." So basically, we realize
wrestling everywhere is they're fighting for real on all these other places. And I'll tell you one thing, bro. Like, I mean, we'll talk about what ends up happening with this, but I'm not trying to go fight against 2 orangutans.
Yeah,
I'm about
huge.
to get walloped. Right. Yeah, they're also like, huge. Like, it's kind of crazy.
Way bigger. I mean, one of them is, towering. It's ridiculous. It's like fighting the Hulk.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's a huge oh shit moment for them. Right. They think they're entering into a pro wrestling tournament where they have to show off their acrobatics and whatever. And now they're finding out, we're fighting like potentially
you have to try not to die.
Like,
yeah.
What the hell?
It's crazy. And so we meet these 2. We later on we'll get introduced to a whole bunch more of these, and I'll actually walk through it because it's just fun to talk about all their names. But the first match ends up being between Orangabang, right, as we know, and Sun and Steel, which is the name that's given to Cobra-san and Lona. basically what ends up in the beginning is that Cobra Sun is kind of getting beat up, and he is not willing to let Lona join. He's just kind of like holding back. He's being a dad without her knowing it. She ends up interrupting the fight. They get one interrupt that's not a tag, and she interrupts, jumps in, knees both the opponents. The match ends. She ends up winning. She also kind of shows how good of a person she is, because the thing about this is that every team in this tournament is fighting to get somebody back. We end up learning that these two orangutans are trying to get their sister back. But she ends up beating them, she hugs them, right? She is somebody who actually knows how emotional all this stuff is, and makes a point of hugging them and whichever else at the end of that.
Right. She's gracious in victory.
She is gracious in victory. We get another match actually after that, which is between these two other groups, the Knights of Rhine and this other group called Pizza Party, which is kind of hilarious because their whole thing is that they're like, it's like New York pizza, but they're also not from planet Earth, which is kind of hilarious.
Maybe there's New York in there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but the Knights of Rhine are also they look like medieval knights, whatever else. But they end up basically beating the hell out of Pizza Party, and I couldn't even tell. I don't know if they knocked out the rat guy from Pizza Party or if they just straight up killed him, but he looks pretty beat. And then we end up learning after seeing this super violent fight that the Knights of Rhine are going to be the next opponents for Sun and Steel. Crazy.
Yeah. We already kind of got into some of the specifics from this chapter, but what were some highlights for you? This is things are heating up. We're sort of getting into some real action here.
I think it's hilarious, and also just puts it in such a fantastical realm that their first opponents are going to be these orangutans. I actually even took a photo of the page where they basically show all the different teams, and actually
we get this really cool bracket.
Yeah,
that's what he's talking about.
That's great. And you've got these different teams. You've got Sun and Steel, which are coming from Earth. You've got Orangabang, which are coming from Junto 4. FYSO, FISO, which is fuck your stupid opinions. Pizza Party. Lucha bots, which are it's insane. Yeah. I was talking to Ben about this earlier. It's insane that we never see we don't see the lucha bots.
We don't get to see every single one of these.
Yeah,
fights.
The lucha bots or the devil doers. We don't see their fight. We also see the Puro Pack, which interestingly enough is also from Earth, the Knights of Rhine, and then like I was saying, the Devil Doers. And
from your mom's basement.
Oh yeah, I forgot that one. I saw that one too.
It says they're finishing moves too, which is crazy. It's got like the Orangabangs.
Is that Attenborough's Cradle?
Yeah,
crazy.
Coin Pouch of Judas. The New York Slice.
Pizza Party, the New York Slice. That's crazy.
Yeah, King Arthur's Table is the finishing move of the Knights of Rhine.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's
but it's so cool.
Kind of goofy. The tone of this is it's really fun. Like obviously, it has these really serious, profound themes about like losing your parents and dealing with grief and all of that. But it's a good time. The book is really silly. There's so many just like visual gags and jokes like throughout it.
Right. It's great. And I mean, it's so when these fights again start happening, we like. I think again, like we talked about, like the kinetic energy that is like shown throughout this. I think it's just so like. With all this stuff, I'm trying to look at this one. Like, there's a great big like kapow where one of the bigger orangutans hits Cobra Sun, and it's like everything's like shaking, and you feel the weight. And this is great. Shout out to our boy Scott. We're seeing like stuff break the panels. Right, there's a really interesting. We'll get into this at the end maybe, but there's interesting panel layouts throughout this whole thing. But it's great when you kind of feel the weight of something because it literally overlaps another panel, which is so cool.
Yeah, totally. I mean, jumping to some more Scott concepts. It goes a lot of moment to moment, right?
Yes.
Like as the panels are transitioning, we're seeing like in this whole setup you're talking about. The book doesn't have page numbers, so I wish we could show you. But basically, we see Cobra Sun. We see the orangutan running across the mat. Cobra Sun winding up for this kick. The monkey dodges it, grabs his foot, throws him into the ring. Follows up with this huge punt. You can literally see exactly what they're doing, and it's communicated so simply and so clearly, and it's so difficult to explain how
this was
well done.
It's a lot of fun. This whole thing is a lot of fun, and I think from the color, from the art, from the way that the panel layout is, it's all adding to the energy of what's going on in all these pages.
a huge highlight too is we get to see Lona really kick some ass for the first time, and we get to see how talented she is. Like she's clearly inheriting.
I don't even think we mentioned is that her uncle tells her dad he's basically angry at the dad for like holding her back because she obviously has talent. If she could be trained, she would be incredible.
Yeah, and so we're seeing, she jumps in, knees both of the orangutans in the face, and does this absolutely huge backflip off of the ropes, and it's such a cool moment. You see her dad and Cobra-san like looking up at her, sort of realizing.
Right. I was gonna say, do you mind if I read the dialogue that comes up, like these little moments that come up right before that, where Cobra-san is watching Lona do all this crazy stuff, and we get these actually the dialogue that I was just talking about, where it says, "Jacob, your daughter, she has the fire, true, raw, unbridled talent. She's got what her mom had." And at the kind of point that you're talking about, where she's doing this gigantic flip over everybody, and everybody's looking up and is like, "Oh my God, that's insane!" And it says, "And you know it, like she's just like her mom. She's got that fire."
It's so good. This storytelling is amazing.
Yeah.
Shout out the author.
Yeah.
Dana Warren Johnson. You're really going crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's great. We also get we do get these. This is actually, it's funny that I'm even thinking about this now, but it's one of the fun things for me also about reading this is that like there are wrestling move names that like exist in this, right? I mean, I think that like for example, a moonsault, like moonsault is how Lana ends up, Lona, excuse me, God have mercy, Lona.
We're going to be all over the place.
I know we are, bear with us. But Lona, basically that's how she ends up beating the orangutan team. And it's just fun to hear all the different names for all the different wrestling moves and things like. It's like watching like skateboarding and hearing all the all the names for everything.
Right.
We're doing pop shove at some people right now.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Another fun thing is we see this crazy necromancer overlord guy that's running the tournament. He's announcing all the fights,
right?
And so we see he's not lying about being passionate. Like he is.
Yeah, he really is having a great time.
So fired up, like calling out what's happening. We get all these little cuts to him, just like gleefully, commentating and shouting out the moves and whatnot. So he's just a weird, bizarre guy. Do you want to use this as draw the parallel between him and the author, maybe? Like you were saying
sure.
Earlier?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about the little like excerpt in the beginning of this, right, is that he talks about how he kind of discovered pro wrestling, watching TV while taking care of his daughter. And it's like a simple little parallel, but it's very much the necromancer guy is kind of like almost like his little insertion of his own life in particular into this character, where it's like it's funny that he's like in prison. I don't think you meant it that way, but he's like having to do this thing, and he ends up watching TV, and that's how he learns about pro wrestling and becomes super passionate about it. And then in real life we end up getting the story, actually, well, I guess in both ways we end up getting the tournament. In the book the guy watches it and then we get a tournament, and then in real life the guy watches it and we also get a tournament. So pretty cool.
It is a cool little stand-in.
Yeah,
the author's stand-in is this evil necromancer.
Yeah, I think that's also hilarious. The only like other thing that I'll mention maybe about this chapter in particular is just the brutality of this stuff sometimes, dude. Like the move from the Knights of Rhine, the finishing move, the King Arthur's table, where they just like slam this dude onto their knees. It's crazy.
Yeah, this guy really might be dead. This giant rat thing.
Yeah, bro. He says racket, buddy. Like that's like depressing. You're like, oh my God, bro.
Oh, he's called a racket. That's also funny because that's like a joke on a rocket. Rocket Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy.
It's Racket Rat. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And this guy looks like Batman kind of.
Oh no, he's a rat. He's not a rat. I think he's a raccoon, which is interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I can't tell. He's got
whatever.
Kind of
He's some way.
He's got the eyeliner.
He's a mammal type creature that likes pizza.
Yeah, mammal type beat.
And the other guy is like Batman, but pizza, like pizza cake.
Yeah, it's pretty great. But so that brings chapter 3 to an end here, and we're gonna go into chapter 4 right after this. We're gonna take a little break ski, do what we got to do, and we'll be back to go through the rest of the chapters with you guys. Thanks.
All right, we're back from break.
And we're about to jump into chapter 4 of Do A Powerbomb. Diving right into this, we get a little bit of background on the Knights of Rhine. Basically, they were sent by their king to basically revive one of their gigantic warriors that they had in this battle. We end up basically learning that I'm pretty sure this king guy, whoever this is, the King of Rhine, is one of the people that Willard Necroton was fighting against in this gigantic war. But anyway, so we kind of learned their
more
reasoning.
backstory for the teams.
The reasoning for why it is that they're fighting. A little bit less compelling than some of the other ones, but they're here to do
It's
their
only
thing.
Intergalactic conflict.
Right, exactly. A little bit.
biggie.
Yeah. But so we basically end up learning also there's another flashback that ends up happening in this chapter, which is that we learn that not only did Cobra Sun and Yua, the mom, not only were they kind of against each other at one point, but they were actually a tag team duo themselves.
That's how they fell in love.
Yeah, that's how they fell in love pretty much. Now we jump back to the present, and Sun and Steel, the father-daughter duo, are fighting the Knights of Rhine. And actually, initially, they're getting kind of whopped. They're getting kind of smacked, which is crazy. Lona takes a heavy beating and it dodges at the last moment and tags out. And they basically end up bopping these guys and winning the match. The next fight that we actually see kind of after that, which is not including the two of them, introduces two other wrestlers from Japan. One of those who is revealed to be Uncle Blood, which is pretty crazy, and they're going up against FISO, which is fuck your stupid opinions. Definitely some heel type folks over there. But were you gonna say something?
No, this was another twist. The uncle,
the uncle's involved.
The uncle's
Crazy.
involved in the same thing, which is wild. He's trying to bring back the mom as well.
He's
obviously.
I have a big reason to be here and whatever else too.
But his match goes sideways before it even starts. Really.
Yeah, it's crazy because they basically end up like cheating, but this other team goes through and just knocks out.
They attack. They start attacking before the bell.
Yeah,
even
before the
rings.
bell, which I don't know how they're not disqualified. But basically, through this fight, Uncle Blood has to kind of take it on himself. FISO, they end up using their special move on him, choking him basically into unconsciousness, and then they do some crazy stuff, and they break this dude's neck, which is just unbelievable.
After the fight, pretty much.
Yeah,
He's already
after
unconscious.
Right. Yeah, no, literally, I think it's after the fight is called, and they're like, nah, let's go ahead and just absolutely dunk on this guy, which is just insane. Luckily,
He's out. Ring the bell. Faisal won't let go of the hold. They're,
right,
like,
exactly.
freaking out.
Yeah, so they're just choking him out. Obviously, Lona starts jumping and getting involved. Beautiful thing, I guess, about this is that one of the things that we end up learning is that because this is such an interdimensional situation, there are interdimensional doctors as well at the interdimensional wrestling thing, and they're pretty good at what they do. So he's probably actually going to be fine, which is great. But once we end up learning that Uncle Blood gets hurt, Cobra Sun we see him basically putting together some weapons for a crazy match. He's got some barbed wire bats, barbed wire chairs, a lot of barbed wire involved in this, but he basically ends up being prepared and saying that, it's not going to be just a regular match against these guys when we fight them. We're doing it's not a cage match, but we're going to do some crazy stuff.
Right. That's sort of all the major plot beats of this chapter. It has a lot more just amazing art, beautiful colors, super dynamic action, all the stuff that we sort of are keep hitting on over and over again.
Yeah,
it's all just top. It's just top tier storytelling.
It is. One of the kind of like fun things that we get is this like I think we'd gotten a montage early, but we get this like fun little panel that just says like another montage, and it's Lona and her dad, unbeknownst to her, training together, which is great.
Right. She still doesn't know it's her dad. That's another thing we need to make clear. We know it's her dad. She still thinks she's just fighting alongside her mother's killer. And basically the big reveal, we mentioned this in the little summary, but the fact that Cobra Sun and what's her name? Yua?
Yeah, the mom.
Basically, yeah, Cobra Sun and Yua originally being a tag team, that's a huge reveal.
Yeah.
And basically, what comes along with all that, what they're doing during another training montage is they have, he says, your mother and I used to have all these like combo moves basically that were like duo crazy things, and I'll teach them to you. So what they're doing is basically like bonding, locking in a whole dynamic, like fighting dynamic between the two of them, and practicing all these new things that are really them having to come together and do some dope teamwork and whatnot. I think that's probably the main crux of this chapter is Cobra Sun and Lona
are working together,
uniting basically, and developing a bond.
And he's starting to give her kind of like credit for the good things that she's doing. And what's also interesting, we actually didn't even talk about the last fight, is that all these fights are super close. It's like they almost lose every single time. It's like 1, 2, and then you get the TH out of 3. It's like and then they end up kicking out or whatever else to get away from these things. Lona also has this kind kind of a powerful moment that shows her resolve, right? She keeps just getting beaten down by the Knights of Rhine. One of the guys is just like way bigger, and he's like, "Stay down, child, for your own good." We hear the announcer saying, "Is Lona knocked out?" She looks and then starts getting up. No, Lona's still in it. Lona's still in it. And she ends up standing up. And we kind of get this almost like anime, I feel like, type of thing where she's like, "My name is Lona Steel Rose. My mom was," this is so like anime.
Run it.
"My mom was you a Steel Rose." And they're like, "What a strength or showing of strength." And she says, "And I'm going to bring her back." And then she just absolutely, I think it's a lariat or whatever else that she uses on this guy, but she just slams this dude to the ground and then tags out with Cobra Sun, and he flips this dude and just absolutely obliterates him.
Crazy. Cobra Sun goes for a massive German suplex.
Right. There's, again, fun names, right? We're getting them all. Again, this is another great thing. When she lariats or basically kind of clotheslines this dude, huge amount of energy in that panel. Crazy.
The way, they're using the line work. Another thing, let's shout out line work.
Scotty.
Super distinct thing going on here. There's all of these amazing small details and cross hatches. There's also huge, bold, super thick outlines and everything. And all those, this particular page, to show them slamming down, it's literally like all of the lines that make up the characters are made up of these like vertical.
Yeah, everything's like pushing up.
Right. You can literally feel the movement in every line in a way that's just kind of ridiculous.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So much
the
fun.
art is just 10 out of 10. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. This was just like a whole.
Sick it is.
It was a lot of just kind of fights back to back. I think the other thing that we get, about this is that these FYSO guys, they're like brutal.
Cutthroat.
They are super cutthroat. They're showing that like even when they've got somebody in like a chokehold and he's like knocked out or whatever else, they're willing to like try and kill this dude. Their move, the coin pouch of Judas, is just insane, dude. It's like
the coin pouch
one guy's like holding Uncle Blood over his shoulders, and the other wrestler, she jumps off basically the high rope and just like I don't even know how this is legal, bro. She just puts her like heels on the back of this dude's head.
There's because it's to the death basically.
Right, it's to the death basically. It's
and you can see Uncle Blood as he's losing. He's crying. He's saying, like, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Should we jump to the next chapter?
Yeah. What a crazy. Yeah. Yes, we definitely should. So chapter 5. This one basically, so it's revealed that we're getting some more backstory of the next opponent, right? So it's revealed that the woman from the duo who just was standing on Uncle Blood's neck, not even standing, falling,
jumping on it,
accelerating towards this man's neck. She has basically a child that ended up passing away from either cancer or some kind of illness that she's trying to bring back. It's revealed that basically the other guy that she's fighting with has a very kind of similar situation with his daughter. And so that's the reason. So, we have a little bit of sympathy for them, but I will say seeing them like try and kill Uncle Blood made me be like, I don't know, guys, did we need to? But maybe they did.
For sure. One other art thing to just point out. Sometimes the shading, he uses those old traditional dots that go all the way back to...
I don't even know if I noticed that.
So every now and then he'll be like, a lot of times he's shading just, normally with color, but then every now and then he'll throw in these techniques that are from like comic history. So I think we talked about it, quite a few episodes ago, but the early printing capabilities for comics was a lot worse, and one of the ways they were able to convey shading was with those little tiny dots, micro dots.
Interesting. Why on just this, like, it's like this in this page, it's like this one panel on one guy in the panel. It's not even every character in the panel, which is so interesting.
But now that I've pointed it out, I'm sure you'll see it used a lot. Like places. He sort of just throws in these, it makes, this is just one of the examples, but the art has a little bit of like a multimedia feel to it, I want to say, and the way that he varies up the textures and everything. Yeah. Like it feels, it's obviously not a collage and all the stuff is consistent, but some of the choices sort of give that effect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. But so anyway, this fight that we're about to get, Cobra Sun is basically demanding that they do like a barbed wire death match. Basically, what's interesting about this too is that he talks to Lona about this whole kind of situation about how you handle doing these kinds of matches. And, right away we get into this emotional thing where he doesn't say it about the situation that they're in, but we learn that, pretty obviously it is. He says exactly, push the pain down, separate it from yourself, and hide it away where it can't touch you. So, we'll come back, and actually Lona herself brings it up later on. But this match is brutal and dirty. Lona gets knocked out kind of in the beginning. Cobra's son at some point gets choked with a chain. They're throwing thumbtacks on the ground. It's absolutely nuts. After Lona gets knocked out and wakes back up, she is able to kind of take on both the opponents because they're going after Cobra's son. They're, they're doing like crazy stuff. Chairs, they're using chairs to fight. The chairs also have barbed wire. I don't know why you need the barbed wire.
I think all this stuff is it's references to like these are all specific types of matches that would go down in real. Like we're not wrestling fans, but if you're wrestling,
but
fans,
I think like a chair, like the chairs are very classic. The ladders.
I think another thing like these bloody matches, kind of where that's a whole thing. There's like I remember from the Netflix documentary. There's like hair matches, like the winner gets to shave the other person's hair. Like there's all these specific. I mean, they don't do a hair match in here, but I think that's like what this is in reference to. Like, there's a bunch of this is just like wrestling tropes. Like, it's like specific types of matches. I think. Yeah,
this is easily the most insane match. Though, when they throw those thumbtacks on the ground, bro, you should have seen me cringing when I was looking. I was like, "Holy, bro, this!" And
it's all supposed to underline like how much of it. I mean, obviously, in this circumstance, like in this story, the fights are real. But I think like in real life, the point is like, obviously what they're doing is in some ways fake. But in other ways, like obviously, they're in real danger from the how intense the acrobatics they're doing are, and then also they're willing to like really get injured, like really bleed, get lots of minor injuries. They're going to need to get stitches for and all sorts of stuff, and it's it's about the commitment to the wrestling.
Crazy. So. Crazy thing about this match is it's going nuts. You are seeing them, they're losing and then they're winning and then they're losing and then they're winning again. And you're like, oh my God, they're going to win. And then they lose. And you're like, what is even supposed to happen for the rest of you're like, I'm looking at the rest of the pages that are in this book and there's a lot that's going on after they lose. And what we end up kind of learning and seeing happen here is that the two wrestlers who are both trying to save their children, they obviously, that's the interesting thing about them, right, is that everybody else seems to be going for one person. They're going for two. And so they decided beforehand that they were going to themselves fight to the death to decide whose kid was going to be resurrected.
Because they can't get both of them.
That's easily the most, I will say that's one of the most morbid parts of this whole thing, where they're like, they have to, kill one another to bring back somebody, right? Which is just, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's tough. One of the huge developments, I'd say like maybe the biggest, and sort of has to do with how they lose is in the middle of the fight.
Oh my God, I didn't even talk about this. Yeah, yes, please.
One of the guys rips Cobra Sun's mask off. He says, you can't win, you don't deserve it. Rips his luchador mask,
and this is actually why they lose too.
Right? Because basically he turns. He doesn't want Lona to see his face, and she realizes that it's like, her dad.
Yeah,
and she's absolutely shocked. She's kind of like stunned, just looking distracted by his face, and then the other wrestler is able to come up behind her
and knock her out with like a light pole thing.
Right, it's crazy, but it's sort of in some ways the way that the reason they lost is because this secret got revealed like in the middle of the fight.
Right, and we have a crazy moment where like Lona's knocked out and like it's the winners are FYSO and Cobra Sun, right, who's now revealed to be her dad, is like screaming, Lona, answer me. It's just absolutely nuts. And so these other guys win, which I will say that was another thing I didn't expect. I didn't think it would. I thought there was going to be some other twist, but I didn't expect that.
Because this is sort of it subverts our expectations because it's like the finale of this tournament or whatever.
Yeah.
Our protagonists lose. You already read some of, I think, like one of the most important conversations. It's where she's saying, I've never done a match like this before. This is going to hurt, huh? And Cobra Sun says, yes, but you have to push that pain down deep, separate it from yourself and hide it away where it can't touch you. Mm-hmm. And don't be afraid of the blood. Wear the red like a badge of honor to show how resilient you are and that you can't be beaten. You're not alone in this fight, and that's how we're going to win together. Okay, together.
Crazy.
That's a great conversation. That's before she even realizes that that's her dad. So I mean, that's one of these cool things. Is it's like
they start connecting anyway.
It showed earlier in the story that since the death of her mom, their relationship really, the relationship with her and her dad really fell apart.
Right.
And here, like, she doesn't even know this is her dad,
they're
like
building it back,
healing that relationship.
Yeah.
And it's before she even knows that it is her dad, which is great. And the reveal, it's good. It's cool how the fighting is sort of like taking center stage with all of this, but then obviously the background through lines about their family dynamic are still being like woven into it in such a natural way.
And I think we are, maybe it's not obviously these things that are in like, regular wrestling things, but that's, I think, right, the point, right? Like we're feeling through through the wrestling match, we're feeling the storyline of each of these groups.
And that's something we touched on before, but I don't think we made super clear about the relationship between Yua and Cobra-san. Is that was when they became a tag team duo, she went out and found him
because she was scouting.
She was scouting, and he was somebody that was so talented. And basically what she was able to help elevate for him was he was focused on the performance of the stunts. And what he was missing that she was really good at is the connection with like the personal dynamic with the audience, having the audience get emotionally invested in the story, get emotionally invested in you as a character. And what she was able to do for both of them and what elevated their careers was exactly what you're saying, combining the narrative elements with the emotionality of the action and all those things.
They were the perfect combo.
Right. And again, shout out the author. That's sort of like, I think that's part of his thesis, is he's showing us what is special about watching pro wrestling in real life and trying to sort of take that same feeling and just make that the center of the comic.
And he did a great job.
He did a great job.
Well done. Crazy. So that's end of chapter 5. We're jumping into chapter 6 now. Crazy. So what does happen after they lose? We see kind of the first thing in this, just in the beginning of this, is that we get a flashback kind of showing Cobra-san after he accidentally killed Yua, with Uncle Blood being pissed. We see, finally Lona's fallen asleep after this whole crazy thing. We also end up seeing kind of like what Ben was alluding to here. When Yua comes back to watch one of his matches, she meets him afterwards, talks about how she's scouting, and then teaches him how to connect with his audience. And that's an interesting thing too, because it's like she has, I think that's one of the things that she's kind of brought to Lona, right? Because I feel like Lona, to an interesting extent, like is able to connect, obviously not only with her dad, but with all the people like around her. Like when she was hugging the orangutans and whatever else afterwards, obviously everybody after that's been pretty crazy, so there's been no reason to hug anybody. But, she, I think, has that from her mom for sure. It's also interesting that Cobra-san, he's a Mexican-Canadian luchador. It was funny because it was one of those things where I'm like, oh, what parts of this are like the author pulling from themselves? And I was like, I wonder if he's like Mexican-Canadian. I don't think that he is, but really kind of just an interesting, kind of fun aspect of that. But so in the present, Lona's carried out after their match with FYSO on a stretcher. The two wrestlers that are remaining, they're fighting to the death, right? Lona kind of ends up returning briefly after getting fixed up by these doctors, these interdimensional doctors, and speaks with her father. They kind of start reaching a little bit more common ground, understanding each other. He kind of has to explain to her why he did things the way that he did. Obviously, they're also reconciling with the fact that now she knows that her dad killed her mom, which is pretty insane.
We'll dig into some of the dialogue there in a minute.
That we'll definitely do. But what ends up happening, which is crazy, is that the other wrestlers, they end up killing each other, like simultaneously killing each other, which makes Lona and her dad, Sun and Steel, the tournament champions by default. Throughout this whole thing, and this is actually, it's funny that I wrote this like this, but, Lona throughout this whole thing is basically helping her father begin to let go of the past. And basically, and again, like Ben said, we'll get into the dialogue here in particular. But that's kind of, I think, another big portion of this here. But so what's crazy is that they end up winning by default. And then they're, talking to the necromancer guy, and they're like, all right, what are we going to do? And he comes back to them basically being like, I actually don't. He even says, he's like, I don't have enough juice to be able to bring her back after being in prison like this. But he does know somebody who does have enough juice and can do it with like the snap of his fingers. And again, I don't even know how to preface this, but they basically, to get the mom back, it's been decided that they're going to do a wrestling match with God.
Capital G God.
Capital G God.
Because he's a wrestling fan too.
He's a wrestling fan. He's a huge wrestling fan. That's what the necromancer says. He says this guy's like the biggest wrestling fan in the world. And he's also, is he kind of luchador actually? Because he's got a mask on. I mean, maybe that's just to be God or whatever else. But
it's just to not show his true face or whatever.
Right.
He's kind of like an impassive silvery mask kind of thing. But,
yeah.
And he's just enormous. He's like way bigger than anyone. He's like 10 feet tall or something.
Crazy. But so anyway, in this, I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on in this chapter. The other two kill each other. They become champions. They realize they can't bring her mom back like that, and then they go to wrestle God. And
Crazy.
Let's get into some dialogue though. Or some pieces you were thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, here is just where father and daughter are kind of having that first conversation about the reveal, Cobra-san's identity. Crazy. And Lona says, "When I saw it was you under the mask, I was actually relieved." Her dad says, "Relieved? All that time you were trying to stop me wrestling because of what happened to Mom. I always thought you didn't think I had what it took to be like her." He says, "I knew you had talent. I just couldn't bring myself to help grow it." He says, "I knew you had talent. I just couldn't bring myself to help grow it in you. Not after what happened. Do you remember before our death match, you told me to push my pain down where it can't touch me? But I just don't know if it works that way. Look, what happened when you hid it away was it festered. We barely talked about it after she died. We lost so much time." You can see he's really sad, and he's like, "I know." She says, "I don't think Mom would have wanted you to feel guilty. She knew the risks. It's time to let it out. You can't keep pushing it down." And she's trying to take his mask off, which is symbolic for all this, right?
Yep.
And she's like, he says, "I want to, Lona, but I don't know. I don't know how." And she says, "Me neither, but that's how we'll move forward together. And I'll be with you when we see her again." And
I love you, Dad. Right?
Yeah.
Very real.
That's just such a, what a cool conclusion. I mean, not conclusion exactly, but like resolution of the whole father-daughter arc we've been experiencing.
Yeah, definitely.
It all sort of, they're like united as Cobra-san and Cobra-san fighting duo and father-daughter duo.
Yes.
And all the feelings and secrets are out on the table.
And it's interesting because it makes a lot of, when I think about wrestling too, it's interesting because I think a lot of people do get into wrestling like as kids and whatever else, right? And so it makes me wonder also obviously he's writing this for his daughter. Maybe at this point, obviously she can't probably read, but I think that there's moments like this which are a little bit more like on the nose about the emotionality of the thing that's going on, right? Like they're pretty kind of directly addressing all the feelings that are being had here. And I wonder if that is like a kind of thing that kind of, it makes this good for people that are our age, but also for like younger people that are kids, to kind of experience this and also really be able to kind of quickly grasp the emotional aspects of this. I think it was a good time to do kind of this exposition for all this emotionality that's going on here.
I think you're absolutely right. Another cool moment you actually were talking about, but as I was setting the mics up, is we get to see these little flashbacks of when Lona was born, and we see Cobra-san sort of like rushing through the streets with a duffel bag on his back.
Yeah, I was like, "Where is this man going right now?"
And this is as he's talking about, you guys are gonna have to fight God to get your mom, because sorry, I don't have enough juice to actually bring her back. I kind of lied about it.
Yeah,
so
crazy,
we see, yeah, what a dick.
But he is a villain.
He's a villain.
There he is.
But we see, Cobra-san running through the streets. He runs through this store. He's like, "I'm here. I'm so sorry. The match went long." And we see Yua saying, "Jacob, it's all right. Come meet your new
daughter.
Come meet your new daughter." Just a funny way to say it.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's just it's another just little example of how cool their relationship was.
They're very deeply connected over obviously each other, but also their love of wrestling.
And the fact that she isn't even, reprimanding him in the slightest. Like she's like, "Yeah, I mean, you got to do your wrestling match while I'm giving birth, and it's cool. I got it."
We're each fighting our fights. But just crazy.
It's another, cute little family moment. And then we see her like holding Lona, obviously, in the hospital bed. Yeah. And then that is they're rising up this elevator all the way up to like heaven or whatever.
It's literally the gate, Heaven's Gate Pro Wrestling. And it's this, I mean, this is a great
HGPW.
Yeah, this is a great panel where it's like you get the whole like obviously setting for this huge background, and it's just a necromancer guy being like, "Want to wrestle the creator of the universe?" Like that's so just insane. Wow. Sun and Steel. I've watched the entirety of the Death Life tournament. We actually never called this the tournament what it is. This was the Death Life tournament, by the way, that this necromancer was putting on. But God's saying they're most impressive. And it's time to, I don't even know, dude. It's time to do it.
It's time to fight God. And we see as they're walking into the they're walking into this huge Coliseum arena thing, and you just see this hulking figure in robes with his arms spread. He's like, "Sun and Steel, I have watched the entirety of the Death Life tournament. You are most impressive." And you just see the chanting in all caps.
God. That's insane.
It's so funny.
Crazy.
And then another cool moment is it shows when Cobra Sun is first, holding Lona, and he picks her up. He still has his luchador mask on, and
this I wrote down actually because I think it's like symbolic of whatever else. Go ahead.
And their mom is just like, "Jacob, your mask." He's like, "I can't." The dialogue isn't as important, but it just shows he first holds her with the mask on, and then he removes his mask, and she reaches up and touches his face. It's cute. It's good.
It's cute. And
dad, baby.
Right, and again, it's like this metaphorical thing of like with his family, with his daughter, he can remove the mask. He can be himself. He can, maybe in these moments not have to always hide away the emotion that he does.
Right.
And actually, that's one thing that I'll just make a little backtrack to, where when they met for the first time, when Yua came to his match, one of the things that she says about him is that, the way that he wrestles and whatever else, it seems like he's like hiding something, that he's got something to prove, and that's why he stays behind the mask.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I just found that dialogue.
Yeah, please.
He said, she asks how he gets into wrestling. They're at the bar. He's still wearing the mask, which is hilarious.
Yeah, and that is hilarious. I mean, it is kind of luchador-esque though. I feel like they really don't.
They don't take it off.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she says, what got you into wrestling? He says, "My father was a luchador. This mask was handed down to me when I was very young. He died. I've been trying to make his memory proud."
Oh, wow. I forgot about that. That's crazy.
Which is huge. So it's another connection to fighting for, it's basically the same arc as his daughter. Her mom died. It's the same thing. So he says, "I can see why you wrestle the way you do." He says, "What do you mean?" She says, "When you're in that ring, you wrestle like you're trying to prove something. You hide under the mask." And he's like, "What do you know about it?" And she says, "I didn't mean to offend you. Don't get me wrong. You're incredibly talented. How long have you been doing this professionally? Whatever, just a few years. That's incredible. You're already so good. But it can't all be flashy moves. There has to be a connection with the crowd. Look, all I'm saying is the crowd can tell if you're open to them, mask or no mask. People can tell when you're holding something back. You have to learn how to be yourself in that ring."
Crazy, dude. Learning to be yourself in the ring is, again, just a deep emotional connection that all these people have to being a wrestler.
This book is mostly literal pictures of like combat, right?
Yeah.
And then these moments of dialogue are just contain so much weight, in the little flashes that we get when they're not in the ring. They just very efficient use of the words.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just looking up Lucha Libre, right, which is where these luchadors come from, and supposedly Lucha Libre is also specifically known for tag team stuff. So I'm wondering if that also it seems like a lot of the stuff with the luchadors, wearing masks and things like that, and it seems like it's also very much like high flying aerial techniques. So I think a lot of that is what's being kind of portrayed here, and supposedly a lot of that stuff, maybe even specifically in Japan with the high flying stuff, came from the Lucha Libre kind of scene, which is crazy.
Sick. Yeah, I mean, all this is cool. This is all cool wrestling context. Like we're getting to learn all this stuff, and once again, shout out Daniel Warren Johnson for doing his homework and incorporating so much of so much different parts of wrestling culture into this little story right here.
Yeah, super cool, super cool.
Are we ready for the final chapter?
I think we are ready for the final chapter. All right, this is chapter 7, folks, which is all about fighting God. Sun and Steel, the two of them face God in a 2-on-1 match, right? So this is against, instead of the tag team stuff that we were doing before, at least with both teams being tag team, it's just the two of them versus just God. They get some new costumes. They go into this fight, and unsurprisingly, God is absolutely whopping them for the most part. They land a couple of hits, and the big thing is that they actually, I think it's Lona who actually specifically does it, but she uses her kind of knee kick thing, which she had done earlier on, and ends up making God bleed, which is crazy. Immediately after he starts bleeding, though, he grabs the both of them and just slams them in the ground. He wins the match. After the match ends, though, God awards them the championship belts for keeping up with him. Lona, again, this is kind of a moment of her character. She ends up throwing the belt down and basically demands that she gets her mother back. She says, "That's why I'm here." And God, instead of giving the mother back because they lost, he basically says, "I'll give you a memory." And what we get is an interesting kind of additional portion of the memory that we had earlier, where Yua and Lona were lying in bed, and Yua was basically describing how kind of death and whichever else is kind of like pro wrestling, or life is like pro wrestling. And we'll do the specific dialogue, but I'll give you guys just a little piece kind of so far. But she basically says, we all know where we end up. It's predetermined, but everyone's story still matters. And Lona, after kind of getting this memory back, she wonders if her mom is still, watching her in the end. And such a great, I'm like getting like goosebumps about it right now. But the last panel in this is that we see that obviously this is in God's realm, and we see Yua watching from the stands, delighted by seeing her daughter, obviously, and her husband too, doing this stuff together.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's a great ending.
Yeah.
Some huge highlights. Obviously, we just have this crazy throwdown with God, which is crazy. They get these brand new costumes, color change. God just kind of like changes their outfits, and they look great. They're in these like cool maroon, and they match, which is another huge thing. They've had totally different costumes this whole time. Now they have matching costumes for the end.
Man, I didn't even think about that.
So the art is tying
They're
into
teamed
it.
up.
They're teamed up. The fight is amazing. It's also all has this like totally different hue than the rest of the book. It's all like glowing gold, and sort of sepia like tones and whatever. The other huge thing is that move that they finally get God to bleed. They do all these different teamwork things all in a line.
Yeah.
And then they hit him. There's this huge splash panel that has the two of them doing this crazy. They finally did it. The sword sunrise by Sun and Steel, which is like one of the moves that, Lona's father and mother used to do. That was their like biggest, most signature, iconic duo move.
Yeah,
and
absolutely crazy. There's so much intensity. Like you see Lona's face in this splash panel too. It's crazy. I mean, it's just so much. I don't even know, emotion that is just flowing out of everybody that's in this panel. Crazy. Kinetic energy. And
I mean, that's their huge victory. Is obviously this scenario is kind of impossible. They're fighting capital G God, whatever that means in this context. But the announcer is absolutely losing his mind that they managed to make him bleed like one drop of blood out of his nose.
I mean, you got a 1 count on God. That's pretty insane.
Yeah. Wild.
Crazy.
And obviously, he defeats him. The fight goes on. Should we just jump into that concluding dialogue here?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see.
Give it to me.
She's saying, I don't want, so God basically is like, he's basically saying, shout out you guys for being such good opponents. It's been forever since I've even, gotten to fight somebody like this. And he tries to give them these belts. She says, I don't want the belt. I want my mom. And God basically says, I wish I could give you what you ask for, but there's no answers that will satisfy the deepest questions of all, and I will not give you what I seek, but I am moved by your plight and your strength. So I will open your mind to the wonder of a memory. And she's like, my memory? And he says, one that is very familiar to her, one that is very familiar to you, but you only remember part of it. I shall restore it. And then we, as Antonio was talking about, get the flashback to that same fisheye view that we saw on the night of Yua's death. So we cut to Lona asking, where do we go after our life? And the mom says, you mean dying? I guess so. Well, I don't really know. Somewhere far away. Somewhere light or warm maybe? It's all a big mystery. But don't you worry. I'm not going anywhere for a long time. Which is all we see in the previous flashback, right? Now we get this added dialogue where she turns back from the door and comes back to the bed. She says, actually, it might be kind of like wrestling. A lot of people think wrestling is about the outcome, the ending, predetermined. Why bother watching? But we all know where we're going in the end. Eventually we die. Our outcome is always known. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think it's about the end, Lona. It's about the story, and everyone's story is worth telling, no matter how it starts, no matter how it ends. And then Lona asks, but when it does happen, when the end does happen, will you be watching me even after you're gone? And then that's where it cuts to, Yua in her wrestling garb in the audience, watching and watching her husband and daughter hugging. And she says, that's my girl. Such a beautiful ending.
Yeah. Great. And then
what a smart thesis also. The whole thing of people dissing pro wrestling, like the part of people it's fake, it doesn't matter, they already know who's going to win. And what a cool way to say, it's not about that, man. It's not about knowing.
Yeah. It's about the good time that you have with the people around you and
all the action that goes down.
And all the action that goes down. Yeah, crazy. I mean, we've talked obviously so much about how we've enjoyed this, and how the art has been incredible, and we've had so many fun our boy Scott moments with the panels breaking and the different layouts. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this a lot. I appreciate you showing it to me. I think we may actually end up reading another one of his stories somewhere down the line. But
I'd love to. I mean, there's a bunch that I haven't read, and as I mentioned to you before, he's in charge of Transformers right now.
So I'm not
a big Transformers guy, but that might be worth us checking out at some point.
Yeah, maybe you will be after.
Yeah,
after
I mean,
you
if
see
it's
the
his,
art.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, but this was really great. I think just a cool, again, from people that are outside of wrestling, I think it's also just a cool experience to experience wrestling in this format, obviously with the insanity and the brutality of it, but also with just like such a deep emotional component behind it the entire way.
Right. We get a really cool appreciation for it. Yeah, what a story. Also, so it's very satisfying. So much of the stuff that we're reading this tiny little beginning chunk, and then we know that there's so much more that goes on afterwards that maybe we'll read, maybe we won't.
Yeah.
It is kind of satisfying to read something that is just a whole contained little arc,
Right.
Like this is the end of the story for these guys, until maybe he revisits these characters sometime down the line in another book, but it's got a beginning and a middle and an end.
And this was good. I mean, this is just like a funny little like side note. One thing that we were talking about earlier, and when I was looking up our guy Daniel here, he and Donnie Cates, who also wrote the other story that we read that had a kind of a again beginning, middle, and an end in kind of this trade paperback form of a couple of issues. God Country. They've worked together before, so kind of a little fun tidbit there too.
Right. Maybe we read that. Oh, look at this. We've got two quotes reviewing the book on the back. This one is from Christopher Daniels, who's a pro wrestler. And he says, Daniel Warren Johnson is definitely a professional wrestling fan, as his love and respect for the sport is evident in each panel of Do A Powerbomb. You get a true feeling of the dynamic motion of pro wrestling in his art. Every scene in the ring feels kinetic and explosive. Yeah, he's just like saying all this stuff we were trying to say earlier. And his story has great drama and mystery behind it. This other review is from the Comic Book Couples Counseling Podcast.
That's
interesting. Shout out Comic Book Podcast. Let's get it.
Yeah.
Maybe we collab.
Sounds good.
But they say, once you read a Daniel Warren Johnson comic, you go, that is a rad comic. That looks gnarly. That looks epic. That's metal as hell. I love it. But inevitably, you are reading, it is the heart and the heartbreak that pulls you in and makes you a new person.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Great.
Great story.
Yeah. We had a good time. Thanks, everybody, for listening so much. Yeah, this was great.
Thanks for joining us. Give us a follow on the socials. Kickback Comics Pod on Instagram.
Yes.
Follow us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that. Give us those 5-star reviews and ratings. And
we appreciate you and love you very, very much for doing those things.
All that.
And also,
we just made a TikTok too.
Yeah, we just made a TikTok, so keep an eye out for videos. You'll see when there are new things coming. You'll see, probably some of you actually, definitely by the time that this comes out, you'll have seen the post that we've done about this, but we'll be doing more things that'll tell you guys about what we're reading in the future.
One of the other goals I have is to figure out this month, hopefully, how to get our episodes on YouTube.
Yes.
It's been a little bit more frustrating process than I thought it was going to be, but
we'll do it.
But we'll get them up there, available for all you listeners at some point soon.
All right, gang. Thanks very much. We appreciate you. This is Antonio and Ben from Kickback Comics. Have a good one.
Signing out.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.
Peace.